Welcome to another exciting episode of Science News. Today, I want to talk to you about cannabis, and a new study looking at how cannabis affects stress and anxiety. Humans have been smoking cannabis for thousands of years. We've discovered cured cannabis buds in the tombs of royals and kings from ancient Egypt, China, India, and elsewhere in Central Asia like Afghanistan. People consume cannabis for a huge variety of reasons. Some people use it for stuff like appetite stimulation or nausea suppression, which is helpful for people, with cancer who are going through chemotherapy. Some people use cannabis medically to put a stop to chronic seizures, to suppress chronic pain from stuff like arthritis or Crohn's disease, while many other people simply use cannabis for fun. They enjoy smoking the herb, or making it into edibles, or concentrating the active compounds into waxes and oils. People use cannabis to help them concentrate, to help them be more creative, to help them sleep. The active compounds in cannabis are responsible for all of these various effects that people use and enjoy. The most well-known cannabis molecule is THC, which is the short name for delta-9 tetrahydrocannabinol. There are other molecules in cannabis, like more cannabinoids and various terpenoids, but there's a particular cannabinoid called cannabidiol, or CBD. And now, CBD isn't psychoactive. Consuming CBD won't intoxicate you like consuming THC will. But CBD does have the capacity to suppress anxiety and chronic pain. CBD oil is the stuff that works almost like a miracle to stop seizures in children and adults who suffer from epilepsy. THC, on the other hand, is a psychoactive compound, and consuming it will intoxicate you to some degree. This is where the study for today's episode comes into the conversation. Researchers Emma Childs, Joseph Lutz, and Harriet DeWitt from the University of Chicago gave their study participants a high or a low dose of THC, and then subjected them to the TSST, or something called the Trier Social Stress Test. They did the stress test in one session, and in another session, the participants were given a non-stressful task to complete. The researchers filled capsules with either 7.5 or 12.5 milligrams of THC, and they gave them to the study participants through a randomized, double-blind process. 2.5 hours after ingestion, the participants were put through the tests. What the researchers found was interesting, but not necessarily surprising if you're familiar with the effects of cannabis. Those with the 7.5 milligram dose, the smaller dose, described generally positive feelings regarding stress. That is, they weren't really that stressed or anxious, and stressful aspects of the TSST didn't have much of a negative effect on their mood. Furthermore, those who took the low dose were able to perform the non-stressful task with no complications. Now, those who were given the larger dose, the 12.5 milligrams, they showed slightly more negative emotional reactions to the TSST, meaning a higher dose of THC made them more anxious and stressed. They also performed slightly worse on the non-stressful task than those who just took 7.5 milligrams. The researchers and authors of the study conclude that the lower doses of THC induce the effects commonly described by cannabis users, like relaxation and a general calmness, but higher doses tend to aggravate feelings of anxiety and social stress. Like I said, these results are interesting, but they're not all that surprising. If you've consumed cannabis enough to know how different quantities affect you, you know that small doses or hits can be quite relaxing. It puts you into a serene or peaceful mood, and you can feel your stress go away as the muscles in your neck and shoulders relax. With higher doses, you feel more intoxicated, more stoned, and the effects on your perception are magnified. You might feel particularly sensitive to the facial expressions or the tone of the people around you, and your thinking is likely to become a little more introspective. If you consume a lot, like a large dose of THC, you start to feel these effects to the extreme. The introspective thinking becomes tainted by paranoia and anxiety, and through this lens, the greater sensitivity to people's facial expressions and tone can exacerbate feelings of social stress and social anxiety. It's important to understand that these are all subjective feelings. You may really enjoy the sensation of a high cannabis dose. Depending on your tolerance or your mental state, what may be a small dose to you could be a high dose to someone else, and vice versa. Research into cannabis is frustratingly rare. largely because of anti-scientific political campaigns against drugs in general, which frequently mischaracterize cannabis as a hard drug that's comparable to heroin or meth. The reality is the exact opposite, as cannabis is a soft drug that's less harmful to your body than alcohol, and certainly less harmful than cigarettes. As our societies open up about cannabis, drug law reform will follow, and this includes lifting legal barriers to research. The repeal or reform of draconian and anti-scientific drug laws means that more studies just like this one will be able to be published. They'll be able to be conducted in the first place, and this will ultimately enable us to build a formal base of knowledge about cannabis, a base of knowledge grounded in hard medical research and biochemical science.